So set the stage for Mafia 2. What's the main character and what's his motivation?
Yeah, so Mafia 2 is about this guy called Vito and his best buddy Joe. And ultimately, the story is a buddy story. We chart Vito's sort of rise into the ranks of an organised crime family as he goes up. All the way to sort of made man status. Now, Vito's motivation early on is the fact that his father's left his mother and his sister in a lot of debt, and with $2,000 in fact, which is quite a lot of money back in the 1940s. So he sees the only way to do this is to sort of embrace a sort of life of organised crime. His buddy Joe's sort of well on the way to sort of doing this anyway, and he kind of comes embroiled into that. So our story sort of follows these guys' lives as they sort of journey up to sort of made man and beyond. They don't aspire to be the Don of a family. It's not the story we're telling here. We're just telling the story of a couple of guys who want to become wise guys to help sort of get them out their sort of poor upbringing in Little Italy and Empire Bay.
Could you tell us a little bit about the philosophies that go into the storytelling of the game and what your thoughts are on that?
Yeah, so the story in our game is hugely important, as it was in Mafia 1, you know. It's really sort of important, the way we really want to sort of, I think the best thing to say is we want to drop the player as the main character in something like Goodfellas. And then you sort of, through the interactive medium of games, is experience this story firsthand, what it's like, make the decisions along the way, and sort of experience the action parts, Now the story, a lot of the story is told through cutscenes, which I'm sure you've all seen, all your fans and yourself, you've seen all the cutscenes, but as well as that, the story is told through different moments in the game. You know, you might be driving somewhere, and then all of a sudden, Vito and Joe, they're constantly talking to one another. You know, these conversations are happening throughout the game. There's so much dialogue in our game, it's unreal. And it's really, really, really rich, sort of, it comes across as a really high quality sort of benchmark that we want. So the cutscenes themselves are really high quality, and we hope comparable to films that you might see, the sort of angles that you're using, the sort of shots we're choosing as well. All of them are played in real time, so if Vito changes his clothes or whatever, arrives in a different car, then that sort of integrates that. It's a very sort of, something we're very excited to bring, you know. We think we're on the leading edge of this sort of presentation in games.
That takes us to today's demo. Could you tell us, set the stage for the demo, what we played today?
Yeah, sure. So what you played today was a mission called Wild Ones, a special sort of preview version, shall we say. What we did is we kind of cut some stuff out just to make it a bit quicker sort of for you guys to get into the meat of it. And what happens is it's from 50% into the story, so halfway. The guys are just on the verge of being made. They're still working, sort of like busting their balls for this guy called Eddie Scarpa, who's their captain, and they're sort of like earning the money, then paying up to this guy. Now they're sent. Eddie's got them a truck full of knocked off cigarettes that they're having to sell around the city at different spots. Now halfway through sort of selling these cigarettes, they get a bunch of greasers sort of turn up and sort of demand their cut, if you like. Now, Joe being Joe, pretty vehemently says, "You're not getting anything, mate." And at that point, they Molotov the truck that Vito stood on, and Joe takes his revenge immediately by shooting the guy in the face. And then it descends down from there, and basically revenge is on the cards for these guys to go and sort of like get their money. Basically, they've lost $2,000 of Eddie's money from this truck, so they need to go back and get his money. And kind of things descend down from there. You kind of get embroiled with another guy, Steve, who's another mafia guy who's also got a chip on his shoulder about these greasers. He helps you out. And then through like 4 or 5 wingmen, you kind of venture through and sort of take your revenge on these guys and ultimately get your money back.
That takes us to the combat, because it's cover-based combat. I think most people immediately think Gears of War or Uncharted when they start playing it, and it feels real natural. Why did you opt to go with down this road?
It's absolutely, you make a really good point, you know. Gears of War and Uncharted is a really good reference point for us. We wanted to go down this road is we wanted to have a really realistic sort of feeling combat system, you know. We want it to be deadly combat, that was the whole feel. And with that, you need to sort of give the player some mechanics to sort of manage that, you know. If you don't, then ultimately it's going to lead to a lot of frustration, a lot of people dying, a lot of people not finishing a game. And that's not what we want, you know. We want to deliver this great experience. We want everyone who plays our game to finish our game, but we want them to have fun and have a challenge.
How typical is that sort of shooting sequence to the entire game? Are there different kinds of missions on foot for shooting?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's all sorts of different type of stuff. Everything feels really different, and a lot of it's to do with the wrapper and the framing of the storyline that you're doing. The mission we saw today was it was really typified by these guys. You kind of bust in, you're going in to kind of like deal with them with a bunch of baseball bats. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, someone pulls a gun and it kicks off. Now, these guys are afraid, obviously, the Mafia turning up. These guys are greasers, they're a bunch of punks, basically. So a lot of the combat is spent there running away, and the Mafia are dealing punishment to them. So it really sort of like, it feels a little bit different. Now, there's different missions where you might be... a mission we showed last year, for instance, an event was a mission where you actually do an assault to take out a mob boss. Now, you're turning up at this hotel where he's got running an operation. All of a sudden, you're busting through the doors, using a huge bomb to blow a hole in the side of the building, and then through there going out and killing everyone. It feels quite different. There's also different missions sort of involving stealth, missions involving driving and stuff like that. So the vibe really changes. Through the fiction, we kind of build things up as you go along, as you might expect. You know, you start off very small scale, stealing vehicles, that sort of stuff. But then it escalates up quite quickly, and so you're doing bigger things, like bigger sort of set pieces. The whole thing with Mafia is these big sort of expansive set pieces, these big mission locations such as warehouses, sort of foundries as you've seen today, huge hotels and stuff like that. So it's one of the things we're really excited about, for sure.
You're roughly 6 months out from release. Where are you at in development, and can we please get a promise that it will be out by then?
I can't promise anything, you know. I don't think our shareholders would let me promise anything. But we're very committed to sort of making the date which we've talked about extensively, which is obviously between August and October this year. Where we're actually at in the development-wise is just polishing the hell out of it. You played it today and it feels good, but it's quite not right, you know. At 2K we're really committed to that really high quality finish that we want from games, and that really sort of high expectation, that high bar that 2K sets ourselves and sets the developers that we work with. So we need that final layer of polish. We've come a long way, and to sort of fall at that last hurdle we're not wanting to do. I think that's the biggest thing we're here to do, you know, is polish it, balance it properly. We don't need any missions sort of like the racing level in Mafia 1 turning up for it. So we need to balance things out, make sure the difficulty curve's perfect, and then let it out to the masses.